Luther's world of cryptids, ghosts, and the unexplained. If you're into strange things that fly above us in the skies, or creepy things that go bump in the night, then you have come to the right place. Much like cryptid creatures or folklore tales, they have a home here, and so do you in Luther's world. Welcome to Chapter 2. Let's dive right into I Never Thought It Would Happen to Me. Real stories told by the eyewitnesses themselves. This story takes place in the state of Texas. Werewolf? Dogman. Whatever you want to call it. Lance Archer, he lived it.
What's up, this is Lanceoid. I am AEW superstar, the Murder Hawk Monster, and I'm here to tell you about a little experience I had one time driving in Texas. So basically, here's the story. I was in Texas. Texas has a lot of wide open spaces, a lot of roads that have basically no streetlights. It's out of the city. There are no, highway lamps, nothing like that. So it gets really dark in different places. And this was on Highway 35 in between Hillsboro, Texas and Fort Worth, Texas on 35W headed north. So me and a few guys in the wrestling business, you travel all around the world and all around the country, and a lot of times you just jump in a car, as many guys as you can, and you go wherever you're going. And in Texas, it's not a small state, so everything is a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour drive, depending on where you're going, what you're doing. So this particular night, we were driving back from San Antonio, and that's about a 4.5 hour drive, depending on the traffic. The space that we were on, like I said, is on 35W headed north between Hillsboro, Texas and Fort Worth, Texas. And we get to this area where basically there are no highway lamps. If there are no cars behind you or in front of you, it is pitch black. And it's open fields, there's farmland, there's some farmhouses and things like that out there, but for the most part, there's nothing there. So two of the guys were in the back seat. They were dead asleep, couldn't help the trip at all. And that's kind of breaking one of the rules of riding in the car is you don't fall asleep. And these two cats, out. But my friend who was sitting next to me, his name was Bobby, he was being cool and he was staying awake with me and he was talking with me and we're telling stories and this and that. So we're driving along and, we're just chit-chatting, we're talking and whatnot. And I remember him talking specifically to me and I'm listening to him and something crossed in front of us. And this is what I refer to as my werewolf moment. And I'm not one of those people that really disbelieves any of this, but this was one of those moments that for a split second, it made me believe. And it was crazy, creepy, cool. It's one of those things, like even now it gives me chills and bumps thinking about it. And so basically when we're driving, again, pitch black, the only lights out on this highway and at this time of night were my headlights. This creature that passed in front of me, I'm in an SUV, it's a Chrysler Aspen, basically like a Dodge Durango, and the front of the hood where this creature passed in front of me is basically like, we almost hit it. Like if it had been a second earlier, we'd have nailed it. And it had its tail tucked and its back was as tall as the hood of my truck, probably a little bit taller. It had a thinner frame. It wasn't like standing on two legs, it was on all fours. Crossing in front of us, I could tell that its tail was tucked and it had a long, like bushy tail. It was a pitch black color, kind of that long, wiry fur. And like I said, I only saw the tail end. I didn't see the head end because, again, we literally, it was like, if this was its butt, we passed it like that. That's how close we came to hitting this thing. And my friend Bobby, again, was in mid-conversation, mid-sentence, and stopped, dead cold. Didn't say another thing. And I'm just kind of driving, hands on the steering wheel, just going, did I really see what I just saw? And I've lived in Texas all my life, and I've never seen anything like this. And the only description, like I said, that I could think of was a werewolf. And so we sat there for a few minutes, not saying a word. Again, we've been in full conversation the whole time. And then I kind of looked at Bobby because he hadn't said anything, and I was like, Bobby, did you see that? And he kind of like looked over at me real slow, and he's like, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, what the hell was that? And I told him, I don't know, man. It's like the only thing I can think of is a werewolf. Again, I've never seen anything like that in Texas in my life. I've never seen anything like that since. it's one of those moments, man. Scared the crap out of me, and I don't know what it was. You know, the dog man, werewolf, whatever you want to call it. But to me, I saw a werewolf that night.
Wow, now that was scary, and when it's seen by two different people, both who got super freaked out and saw the exact same thing, they definitely saw something. That leads me to think, do you think for even a millisecond, Lance maybe thought about turning his truck around and going back to getting a better look at the thing? Would you? Next, we go out to Southern California, and we hear a little tale about a Native American spirit told by Frankie Kazarian.
Hello, I am Frankie Kazarian, a professional wrestler for All Elite Wrestling. And so I was born and raised in a town called Yucca Valley in Southern California. And a lot of old, like, Native American burial ground area surrounds the outlying towns and communities. So this particular story happened when I was just out of high school. A buddy of mine were hanging out with a couple friends, some girls. We were up at this place called Pioneer Town, which is a town about 6 miles north of where I live. Real famous town now, small little town. They used to film Western movies there. So we were out there just doing things teenagers do, and we were out partying and we stayed up all night. And I had to drive home at real early, like 6 in the morning, so it's something to do. We were both really tired, so me and my friend Greg got in my car and we started driving on this long, windy mountain, and then there's this big, long straightaway that takes you back into town. And the sun's really bright and it's right in our eyes, and up on the horizon we see what we thought was an old man or an old woman walking, but they were walking like almost in the middle of the road. So us being, you know, especially me being an asshole teenager, I was like, hey, you know what, let's pull real close, let's slow down, roll the window down, and say, hey, get the fuck out of the road. Can I swear? I'm sorry. So I said, let's do that. Let's pull up to this old lady or old man or whatever it is, and say, get the fuck off, get out of here. So we're driving, slow down. My buddy Greg rolls down the window, and just as we're about to yell, this old man, very, very old Native American man, long hair, traditional like Native American garb, looks at us and had no pupils, only whites. All we saw was the whites of his eyes. So we look and we go, oh! It startled us so much. I hit the gas, he rolled up the window. I looked in the rearview mirror and I said, Greg, look, Greg, look, Greg, look. Greg looked back, he was gone. Go. And this was an old, elderly person. And this is a long stretch of road with nothing around it other than desert. He could not have ran away and hid. He vanished. So, we're driving, and now I'm just like, did you see that? Did you see what I just saw? Did you see that? He said, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I was like, what did you see? He's like, I saw an old man. He had no eyes. It was great. I was like, okay. So later that day, we're hanging out, and I decided to call my friend Susie, we were at her house the night before, and I told her, I said, hey, something really weird happened. We were coming home this morning, and we were on Pioneer Town Road, and a long stretch, and there was this old man walking, and he was like in the middle of the road, and we pulled up to him to tell him to get out of the road, and he looked and like he had no eyeball. It was just all the pupils were gone. It was all the whites of his eyes, and we drove off, and I swear to God, he vanished. It was the weirdest thing. And Susie just goes, oh my God. And I go, what? And she goes, oh my God. And I go, what? She goes, my family knew an old Native American man that lived in that valley that used to walk on that stretch of road every morning for his morning walk. But he died 10 years ago. And the minute she said that, my buddy Greg saw me and I just went pale. It was like, holy shit. So like, getting that confirmation and having my friend Greg there with me absolutely 100% convinced me that that was something supernatural, because there's no other explanation other than the one my friend Susie gave, which is in perfect correlation with what I'm telling you. So that was the first time that I had that weird cold come over me that was like, wow, like something, I just witnessed something otherworldly.
Wow, now I am 100% convinced that the nighttime is the right time. And this, again, seen by multiple people. Saw the same spirit and past stories about the same spirit. So there's definitely something going on there. So everybody remember, when you're on those long, lonely stretches of road and highway out there, keep your eyes open, because you never know what you might see. Now, we're going to reach into the old mailbag and read tales sent in by you. This is the Paper Trail. Hey, it's time for a little bit of Luther's Mail and what we like to call the Paper Trail. So, we'll start with the first one. Hi, Luther. Big fan. My ghost story is short. When I was 7, I was staying around a friend's house. He was asleep, and I was sleeping at the other end of the room. The room was pitch black, and I sat up, and I looked to my right, and at the table holding my friend's weight set. Underneath that table, which there looked like a shape of a person sitting there. It was just looking at me. I waved at the shape, and it waved back. I was convinced I was seeing things, and I was so tired, so I just flipped it off. And it flipped me off. Then I just hid under the cover, and I thought, I just pissed off a ghost. When I looked back, it was gone. I still can't explain it to this day. Kind regards, and I hope I don't butcher your name, Kale. Well, you know what? I kind of have a story that's sort of very similar, but I did not flip off a ghost. But I'm going to tell that one again on another episode. But thanks for sending in. That was awesome.
Good evening. This is Serpentico, and welcome to the Paper Trail. Message 1. About a month ago, I had sleep paralysis and I had my eyes closed, but there was this breathing and I could still feel it. After a little bit, someone said, "Open your eyes." And when I did, nobody was there. This was in Misawa, Japan, near a base where they practiced for Pearl Harbor, and there are a bunch of abandoned bunkers. So 3 days later, it happened again. And I'm hearing screaming and gunshots and people screaming to get down. But when I open my eyes, it stops. I don't know what's going on. But then it happened again the next day. And the same thing again and again. Except when I open my eyes, I see people standing there looking at me. That's really creepy. When I open my eyes, I see people and I see dirt, blood, and I can't move. All of a sudden, they start moving towards me and I close my eyes and they're gone. And that's the last time I saw them.
Greetings and salutations. I'm Drexl, homicidal artist, pro wrestler, deathmatch darling, and I'm here for another edition of Letters to Luther. This one's coming from Anonymous. It says, "Dearest Luther, no one believes me that this happened, but it did. I was working at Arby's when I was a teenager, and this man comes in late at night. And when he paid, he brushed his fingernails against my hand, and as he gave me the money and the quarters and the stuff to pay for his food. And his nails, they were weird, like a reptile's nails. I tried not to think about it, and I made it through the shift. But for months afterwards, I couldn't forget the weird feeling I felt when those non-human feeling nails touched my hand. Even if I think about it now, to this day, I get chills up and down my spine. I had night tremors and horrible dreams for a long time too. Then I thought nothing of it for a few years after the nightmares and tremors had stopped, until I turned on the news and there was this interview with the mayor of our town. And I knew it was the weird old guy that weirded me out at Arby's all those years before. He had the exact same hands, but his fingernails were cut down. And they weren't like reptile claws. They looked like normal human hands. It was just weird. He's still a politician now, but even more, like, bigger in the arena of politics than he was back then. Like, people all over the US have heard of him, and part of me is sure that he's legit alien from another world. And at times I feel like most politicians are weird because they are aliens from other worlds just pretending to be humans. I have a feeling that if people let their fingernails grow out and not cut them, we could once and for all see who the aliens are living amongst us. It would be a very good visual test to identify who is legit human and who is an alien pretending to be one of us. My nightmares are better now, but I still get scared if I think about those nails, which weren't human, 100%, touching my hand at Arby's when I worked cash there. You know what it was? It was a reptilian. And you know who should have gotten this letter? Serpentico. Because Serpentico is a reptilian, at least that I've heard. So if you think that David Arquette is Serpentico, you're wrong. Unless David Arquette is also a reptilian, and then I don't even know who to trust. But this is another letter to Luther. I'm Drexl. See you later.
If you have a story and you want it to be on the show, just write it out and email it to me at luthersworldmail@gmail.com. Or you can videotape yourself telling your own story, and I'll put it on a future episode.
Hello, I'm the Bunny.
And I'm AEW's The Blade. You are watching Luther's World of Cryptid,
Ghosts!
Unexplained.
Now it's time for this episode's edition of the Storytellers. And today's storyteller is the owner of the Roswell UFO spacewalk, Bryan Ward.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Bryan Ward here, your fearless leader at the Roswell UFO spacewalk, the center of space and time. I have an interesting story here to tell you. UFO encounter that happened to me and a couple of my friends, early summer of 1980, 81, so it's a good 40 years old. What happened was we were just kicking back at the house, right? The parents were gone, so we decided to come to my place. I lived out in the country. It was a rural area then, lots of almond orchards, alfalfa fields, a lot of dairy, that sort of thing. We ourselves lived on a horse ranch. So it was about early nightfall. The sun had just set, and we were just outside. You know, the evening had just begun, and we just happened to notice up in the sky. We were looking at the stars because it was so bright, and one of the stars we noticed were acting weird. It was starting to move around and do zigzags and stop, and then just circles, all sorts of weird movement that was just not common to ordinary aircraft. And we were looking at it for, a good 10 minutes, just wondering, what is it? There is a naval base that's not too far, Hanford, which is about maybe, I would say 30 minutes away, so we weren't sure what we were looking at. And this continued for a good 15 minutes or so. Until finally, across from our house, we're in the backyard, there's a horse pasture, and then across from that is an orchard. And before we know it, this light, whatever it was, descends down just right over the top of the orchard and starts to move in towards us. And we're looking at it, we're thinking, what is this? This thing's coming right at us. So we're fearless, we're about 18 years old. We go out to the edge of the horse pasture to meet it. There's three of us. It's me and a couple of my high school friends, and because there's a nice open area there, we're hoping we can get the flying saucer to land. So we were out there, fearless, waving our arms. Hey, you see us? Land. And one of our friends decided to stay behind. Now we had a back door was locked, and it had a dog door cut into it, but we had a smaller dog. And I noticed that the one friend that went out there with me was yelling at the other friend, "Get out here, come out here and look at this. What are you doing hiding back there?" And but I didn't want to take my eyes off what I was seeing because it was so spectacular. So this is all going on. I'm just trying to retain everything. So we go out there and we're excited. We can see this thing. And by then it's really low in the horizon. I mean, maybe about 100 yards away, if that. Just right at the other side of the horse pasture above the orchard. And we're waving at it to land. Come in and land, come in and land. And it starts to get closer. And the next thing we know, by then, me and my other pal that went out there to look at it, we're right at the very edge of the horse pasture. There was an electric fence that went along there, so we got right up to the edge and I wanted to keep my eyes on it, see what was going on. And right then it put a beam of light on us. And we were excited at that time to have it land, but when a flying saucer puts a beam of light on you, it gets your attention. I remember we were like, what the hell is that? We kind of shut up. We weren't so loud, weren't so eager for it to land. I remember we were looking at it, and this light was on me and my friend. I remember him saying, "Do you feel that? You feel that tingle on your face?" And sure enough, it was a real light static electricity. It was, you could just feel it, just mainly right here on your face, but real light, like static electricity. And then I don't know how long this light beam lasted, maybe 10 seconds, I would say at the most. And then it shut off, and then I could see it more clearly. Then it looked like a star that was changing colors. But after the light beam hit us and shut off, then I could kind of see a round saucer sort of silhouette up in the sky, and it was still glowing a little bit in the middle. But all this time there's no sound, absolutely zero sound. And we're looking at it and we're thinking, what was that? We're still kind of stunned with the whole shining the light on us. When you're seeing it is one thing, when you know that they are seeing you, that it's another thing. And so it was, anyway, it was kind of sobering. And while we were sitting there looking at it, spellbound, it just shot right back up in the sky like a shooting star in reverse. Bang, was gone. And we were looking around, where's our other friend? What happened? And so we go to the back door, it's locked. So we go around to the front, which was open, and we come in and he was breathing hard, clearly upset. He'd squeezed through that small dog door. His ribs were all scraped up. He was clearly in distress. And anyway, we thought it was fabulous. So the next day or the next Monday at school, whenever that was, we were retelling our story to everyone. And the one friend that didn't go out there to meet it, that went through the dog door, by then he'd already denied it happened. It never did happen. It was completely like it was nothing that ever was in his history. So it was already kind of gave me my introduction to people they see things and then they instantly deny it. If you can't explain it, if there's nothing in your grid to explain these weird things, sometimes the easiest thing to do is deny and trick yourself into saying it never happened, but it did indeed happen. And this was in the Central Valley area. Like I said, it was in California, 1980, 81. It was mostly all agriculture in there. A few other weird things happened, but that's a tale for a different day. I'll get back to you on that. Back to Dr. Lou.
Cryptids of the world. Today's cryptid is a Slavic folklore monster known as the Baba Yaga. The Baba Yaga. The first reference of the Baba Yaga was in about 1755. And the name Baba Yaga translates to the old woman or hag or grandmother. If you ever come face to face with the Baba Yaga, she will either be like grandmotherly nice to you, or you will become her dinner for that evening. She lives in a hut deep within the forest, but that hut or house, or however you want to call it, it's living. So it has long skinny legs that actually look like a chicken's legs. And the windows are bright and they act as eyes. And these eyes are always on the lookout for intruders or passers-by that are unlucky enough to stumble across the Baba Yaga's house. And if somebody does intrude and come through, those little chicken legs will run away and the house will relocate in another part of the forest. The fence that wraps around the Baba Yaga's house is made up of the bones of all the people she's eaten. And the fence posts are the skulls of her victims. Some say that the Baba Yaga is one witch, and others tell the folk tale the Baba Yaga is actually 3 witches, but they all go by the name Baba Yaga. She rides around on a giant mortar or a kettle, and she uses a pestle, and she uses that to grind up of the bones of the people she catches and that she eats later that night. But the Baba Yaga can help you. Some people seek her out for help. But if you seek out the Baba Yaga, she will make you do a bunch of tasks or challenges. And if you are successful in these tasks or challenges, she will help you with what you are seeking out. But if you are unsuccessful, she will kill and eat you. Bon appetit. For all you ghost hunters out there, it's time for the haunted hotel. And today's haunt is going to take us all the way to South Dakota. It's the Hotel Alex Johnson. The Hotel Alex Johnson in Rapid City, South Dakota. I could not find any specific room rates for the hotel, but if you Google search or go on one of the sites that gives you packages out there for hotels, I'm sure you could find it, or call them. The one thing I did find was that they do offer extra packages on top of the roommates they have now, like a lover's package or getaway package. But one thing that's really cool is they offer a ghost tour package that will take you to all the hot spots of the hotel. And there are many. A lot of people that stay at the hotel say they encounter strange shadow figures. They'll also see doors open and close on their own. And probably one of the creepier things that the hotel people have reported hearing is growling. They'll hear growling sounds. But there is one entity that is very aggressive, and that's probably who's doing the growling, I'm guessing. Many people have reported being shoved, and in some cases even bitten, where you can actually see the bite marks on the people. Chairs have been seen in the banquet room slide from one area to another, and in some cases even thrown in the air. The chair will just go getting launched. There's people, when they stay in the rooms, a lot of people report cold spots, or the feeling when you're in your bed that someone is sitting right next to you. And I also think that downstairs there's reports of people feeling like there's someone sitting next to them. There's many reports of a little girl ghost, and she's on the 8th floor. And reports are she's seen running down the hallways, and she'll knock on everyone's doors. And when you come out, she just disappears and vanishes. And she's also heard giggling in the stairwells of the hotel. Same girl, same ghost girl spirit, I'm not sure. Maybe 2. The most famous ghost at the Hotel Alex Johnson is that of a young bride who had died on her wedding night. She's known as the Lady in White. She is still seen wearing her wedding dress. The same dress she wore the night that she had died. She died of a suicide in room 812. Well, not exactly in room 812. She died outside the hotel as she jumped through the window of room 812 to her demise down below. In room 812, many people still report hearing crying from within the room, a girl crying, and when they go in, there's no one there. And when you stay in room 812, the drawers of the dresser somehow always get turned upside down. And when you lock your windows at night and keep them shut, it's reported that when you wake up, that window, the same window the lady in white jumped out of, will be wide open. If you're planning on staying in Rapid City, South Dakota, I would definitely go to the Hotel Alex Johnson, and I would most definitely ask to stay in room 812. Thank you to all my guests today, Lance Archer and Frankie Kazarian. To my readers, Serpentico and Drexl. The Bunny and the Blade, thanks for stopping by. And to my storyteller, Bryan Ward. And most importantly, to all of you. May the chaos run strong and stay creepy.